My name is Paige Squirrel, and I'm 53 years old. I grew up in Europe. My parents are actually American, but they were missionaries, so I grew up in Turkey and Germany. And when I went back to the States to study, I met someone from England. I married him and ended up moving to England. And so I've now been in England longer than I've been anywhere else. So in lots of ways, I consider England home. I'm married to a pastor, and together we pastor a church in Bacton, which is rural Norfolk. We've got 4 grown children, and this year we are delighted to have our first granddaughter. So we're grandparents for the first time this year. That's basically what takes up my time: church and people and family, and I love every bit of it. It's been a long journey, really. I can't remember how long ago. It must have been 10, 12, 13 years ago. I was looking into doing a counseling degree just because I've always had an interest in people and in helping people. And then a few years ago, we were on sabbatical and spent some time out at Bethel, and I came in touch with Sozo, the Sozo ministry. And I started training in that, and we've now got Sozo Ministry in our church up and running. And I think it was through that, somehow we contacted Destiny Coaching. Somehow we got information on Destiny Coaching. And to be honest, it's something we've been looking into for a few years. And initially, my husband Jonathan was going to do it, but then I decided to do it this year. And it's been the best decision I've made, really. And it's great to see how it just enhances so much of what I've been sort of reading about and learning in years past. So, yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing has been how to help people, really, and to help them effectively. And I love how there's an emphasis on we're facilitators and not ones to fix a problem, but there to just facilitate and just enable people to come to their own conclusions, really, and just to guide them along. And that's very similar to Sozo, which is so different to counseling, really. And when I've put it into practice, I just love being a facilitator and just seeing people come to their own conclusions and feeling empowered and having those aha moments, like, why didn't I see this before? And it's just very rewarding and exciting. So I signed up for the 12-month program, the 5 phases. And I think part of that was because if I was in for a penny, I wanted to be in for a pound. I just wanted the whole package. And it was much easier for me to do it online than to try and get to the weekends that are offered throughout the year in different places. So that's why I chose the online course. So how have I found the online course? I have found it incredible, really. So I guess basically we're sent an email telling us when the modules have come out, and then we can log on to them online and listen to the teaching online and follow along with the workbook that we've been sent, which is really helpful. But with the teaching modules, we're also given practice assignments to do, which we can use on volunteers who are brave enough to let us practice on. And there are also live webinars, which, if I'm completely honest, I have found incredibly helpful. I mean, I love them the most, and just being able to implement what we have learned, being able to practice on one another. And didn't know that you could go into private classrooms online, but I've experienced that for the first time, and it's just been phenomenal. It really has. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Can only recommend it. Okay, so I've just completed phase 1, of this year's course. And some of the highlights have been being able to use what I've learned on other people and just to see them come alive. And a lot of it is not through giving them suggestions or advice in any way, but just asking the right questions. So I think learning to ask powerful questions and not just using it in coaching, but even using it in conversation has been amazing. It just takes ordinary conversation up to another level. And I was thinking, even if I never use this to coach, which I am hoping to, it's been beneficial just in improving my own conversation with other people. So that's been a highlight. I think one highlight is learning to what you, Tina, call dancing in the moment and just being able to take what a person is saying and go with it and just draw more out rather than just being content with the answer that they give. Just being able to dig a little bit deeper and get them excited about what they've just communicated and get them to look at it from different angles and different perspectives. And even search for language to describe it. But I found that very rewarding. And I think one of the things I've loved is this whole idea of being able to, and I've used it on myself now and other people, get them to project themselves, like if they're in a situation and they don't know what to do or they're a little bit fearful of what the outcome will be, to be able to imagine down the road, where will I be if I take these steps, and to ask God, what am I feeling? What am I seeing? What am I experiencing? God, how do you feel about me in this situation? What are you saying in this situation? And I've experienced a lot of breakthrough in my own personal life, but then also using it on other people to witness them coming to a breakthrough is incredible. How have I developed myself or experienced development in my own life through this course? Where do I begin? I think with anything, if you want to help someone, you need to be able to use the same tools on your own life and be vulnerable enough to what needs tweaking and what needs realigning in your own life. I guess I was on this journey a bit before I started the course, but this has just enhanced it. This whole idea is I don't need to fix another person's problem. And maybe because of what we're involved in as church leaders and sort of the work that we've done, you can take on a false responsibility and a false sense that you have to sort issues out. Whereas God has never called us to be fixers of problems. He's called us to stand alongside people and to facilitate. And you can't make people do what they don't want to do. So I found that very liberating, really, and have experienced a new sense of freedom in my own leadership, in how I relate to people and deal with people as well. Yeah. So one of the things that really impacted me in Module 104 was when Tina shared from one of her own experiences. She was on mission and the person leading the mission told them to prophesy over their day, and Tina said that she now looks at her day and says, what does an ideal day look like for me? And that has really stuck with me and has made a huge difference in my own personal development and the way I approach my days now. So I found that very helpful. Phase 1 has already impacted me hugely, and I'm excited for the other phases. And I can only say I'm grateful I signed up for the whole year and that I made that decision from the beginning. So to anyone out there considering doing the course but not sure, I would encourage you to do it. Full stop, and you won't regret it. Yeah, whether you end up using coaching as a source of income or not, I don't think it really matters. Just doing it for your own benefit and for the benefit of how you relate to others, for your relationships, even your own marriage. It's just incredible. I think there's so much in it that you can glean from. In a way, when I think about it, it has really helped me on the journey to wholeness. And I have got a big thing about wholeness that are so quick to compartmentalize compartmentalize our lives. But really, when Jesus died and rose again, he did that so that we could be whole, sort of spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And this course is just great in leading people on that journey to wholeness. And so I would just highly recommend it. Yeah, this course is different in the sense that it brings God and the Holy Spirit into it, and it goes a lot deeper in the heart level. And I found that amazing, really. I think in some ways that needs to happen. So much more can be achieved and uncovered when you bring God and the Holy Spirit. Even those who haven't got a faith, they are spiritual beings and they are looking for that aspect. And so I'm quite excited about just being able to use what I've learned in conversation with those who don't know God, and just to encourage them to tap into the spiritual side of who they are, because we are all spirit, soul, and body, aren't we? So we have that in us. In lots of ways, I don't think you can do coaching unless you're willing to go to that place, and often we shy away from that, which maybe even the amount of healing or direction a person can get. It just makes me realize that often you don't need a huge amount of time, because I think when God comes in and takes over, he does it in such a short time without even having to delve into a lot of background or a lot of information. It's between the person and God, and something happens and it sticks with them for the rest of their life, really. So it's quite exciting. Yeah. I do think men would enjoy this course as much as women, even though one thinks that women tend to be more heart people than men are. Even some of the things that I've shared with my husband when I've talked to him about it, I think it's whet his appetite to do it at some point. He can't do it at the moment, but it is definitely something that men would benefit from. And on the course this year, we do have a couple of men, and the last time we did our live webinar, I was paired up with one of them, and he was phenomenal the way he coached and led me to an encounter with God. So it's definitely for men and women, not just for women. So why did I choose coaching over counseling? I know there's a need for counseling, and I know a lot of people have benefited from counseling, and initially that's why I was going to go down that route. But when I looked into it and researched some of the courses that were out there, it just seemed to me, and people that I also knew who were seeing counselors, it just seemed to me that they kind of became dependent on their counselor. It was almost like they had to keep going back to their counselor, and from conversation it just seemed like there wasn't a huge amount of breakthrough. And the thing I love about the coaching and learning to ask powerful questions, and also just inviting God and the Holy Spirit into situations, breakthrough comes so quickly, and I love that. And obviously the person has to walk it out. You know, once you've experienced an encounter or a breakthrough, the question is, what are you going to do with it? But to witness that, I think, is phenomenal, not having to go over a bunch of history and baggage, and just being able to just facilitating people to a place where they can just receive that breakthrough that they're looking for. And yeah, I'm definitely glad that I've gone for the coaching and not the counseling. With the coaching, this whole idea that we're just facilitating, and that we say that from the start. I'm not here to fix your problem. I'm here just to facilitate and to ask questions. I think that sort of takes a lot of pressure off. And also, I think it gives freedom. It just kind of frees up the whole session as well, because then the other person doesn't think, oh, I'm just going to be told what I need to go and do. Because in my experience, someone has to have a revelation for themselves that they need to do something, and that's when the change happens. If they're just being told this is what you've got to do, but they haven't had a revelation of it for themselves. It's harder for them to implement what needs to be done. Whereas when they have a revelation for it, then they go and do it and experience the benefits from it. So it's very good value for money. So if anyone, quibbles at the cost, I don't begrudge the cost at all, because I think what we get for it is worth it. It really is.